And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the monastery, the open bar of the internet, the world's greatest shit show, and the place where we, the good brothers and sisters of this most holy of temples, seek enlightenment through the drunkest, craziest, and most batshit ways possible. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me, I have a couple newcomers into the temple, even though this project is not a returning thing. Like, why did I say newcomers? A couple of returning. What the hell? English, monk. In the red corner.
Yeah, we're not new. We've been here before.
Yeah, in space is warped and time is bendable. In the red corner, coming to us from MythWorks, the madman behind the Wild Sea and its various forms, as well as the Wild Words engine, the one and only Felix Isaacs.
That's me.
And in the blue corner, previously here for When the Moon Hangs Low, and one of the parts of the triple-headed monster that is the creators of the Eternal Ruins RPG we'll be getting into today, the one and only Rob Leigh. Is it
and that's
Leigh
me.
or Leigh?
It's Leigh, yep.
How you two doing today? Well, closer to tonight than today over where you are.
Yeah, I was going to say, my day's almost done, so...
Yeah, yeah, not too bad, thanks.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So, I suppose I'll start with the origin story. Not repeating the origin story of you guys when it comes to role-playing games. I did that with both of you already, but
yeah, we've done that
more
stuff.
the chain of events that led to Eternal Ruins even becoming a thing.
So, for the project itself, like, Sam's been doing this for quite some time now, but I didn't see it until a particular video about, I think it was Wanderer statues, might have been the first one I saw, and I'd been looking for, it's going to sound very sinister the way I say it. I've been looking for new people to collaborate with, but mostly because, like, I'd had with the Wild Sea, and also with Pico, I'd had the experience of, like, doing my own thing, very much. But I hadn't really, apart from my work on Daggerheart, I hadn't really done much work with other people, and it was quite fun working in a team. And it was quite interesting and a different kind of challenge working on someone else's world as well for Daggerheart 2. So when I saw the Eternal Ruins, knowing the kind of MythWorks slate and the things that MythWorks enjoys doing, I saw the first few Eternal Ruins videos and thought that would work really well as a TRPG. Reached out, unbeknownst to MythWorks at the time, made contact with Sam, discussed it a little, and then kind of pushed him in the direction of MythWorks. And yeah, 6 months later, it was all official, and a year or so later, it was almost time to get everything started. Unfortunately, that year or so later, I was also working on two other things. And it was one of those like, I cannot do all of these things. There are not enough hours in the day to do all of these things in one go. But I know someone else who enjoys this kind of thing, and I've worked with before and enjoyed working with. And Rob, I think that's where you enter the story.
So Felix basically called me up and said, would I be interested in collaborating? And I was like, yeah, definitely. And yeah, sort of, he pointed me towards Sam's videos and everything, all the other content for the Eternal Ruins, which I dutifully inhaled and really got into. So we started working together to create this with Sam, of course, to create this RPG.
Yeah. And I do want to note one thing, because this wasn't a thing the last time I talked about Wild Sea with Felix, and that is the notion of the wild worlds, well, not words. These starting with the tongue twisters early, and engine, because the times that I talked with you about Wild Sea, that hadn't been codified yet. If I recall correctly, the Wild Words setup was something that was born out of the ripple effect of the OGL fiasco. At least that was when I found out about it.
Yeah, it pretty much was. It was one of those things where we'd been thinking about doing an SRD, especially like a web hostable interactive SRD for some time. But we never really got around to it. Then the OGL scandal stuff happened, and it was like, okay, if there's ever a time to codify this stuff, it is now. So over the next, I think it was about a month of solid work, I think, I managed to strip down the Wild Sea into its component parts. And in doing so, realized, like, when I've read system reference documents and things before, they've always been quite bare. And I wanted to aim for something that was more, not just at like use X to do Y, but use X to do Y because of Z, and maybe A, B, and C, and consider D while you're at it. So then there was a little bit more conversation and tone, and it gave a bit more guidance. And I think it ended up working quite well. Some of it accidentally, obviously, much like some of the Wild Sea stuff was like, people go, oh, that's really cool. And I go, that was just an accident that turned out that way. The SRD was a similar thing. But there's been some nice uptake of it. I've seen a few projects, some of which are secrety and some of which I think are open, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And the whole thing of I was planning on this and then the OGL fiasco kind of accelerated it. That's a story I've been seeing a lot over the last few years.
Oh yeah, we were far from the only ones.
Yeah, I did a postmortem on the whole thing, and I said, in a roundabout, somewhat fucked up kind of way, I think that fiasco is going to go down as a net positive for the tabletop landscape.
Oh, definitely. Well, I shouldn't say definitely. I don't know in the future, but I think it has already been a net positive. Mm-hmm. I think got a lot of people to think about things they wouldn't normally think about, and to try things they wouldn't normally try, just because of the impact it had on designers, and like speculative designers as well. So I think a lot of future projects that would have very neatly fitted into a very large but very exclusive, in a way, box were suddenly shuttled into a load of smaller boxes that I find a lot more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it definitely changed the discourse around roleplay game design and publish and things like that as well, especially in the small indie community. Mm-hmm. A lot of the indie designers I talked to suddenly felt a lot more kind of seen because of it. So yeah, if there is a silver lining to it, it definitely did sort of open things up.
Mm-hmm. Now, with that in mind, when it comes to adapting a system to a particular setting, IP or whatnot, and this is It's not like this is something I have a few years of experience on, but there's always the case of shifting certain mechanics, certain ideas to fit more with that source material. And with Wild Words, were there some things that had to be not necessarily overhauled but shifted in order to better fit Eternal Ruins?
Yeah, one thing in particular, actually, which I'd probably let Rob take, because Rob did a lot of the development on it as well. Because we specifically wanted something that broke away from the way WildSea originally did travel. Because in games like the WildSea, travel is this kind of fast, slow, meandering thing, but you always have a destination in mind. Everything is set up to be destination based. Whereas the Eternal Ruins, I mean, it's in the name, they are eternal. You may have a destination in mind, but most time you are wandering. It's in the name of the characters, they are wanderers. And so Rob came in with some inspiration taken from other places, and also a hefty dose of, well, Rob design, and kind of hammered out the absolute basics of the Wild Words travel system into something very new. So I'll let Rob take over on that one, because it was, don't get me wrong, I've done some writing and design as well, but the travel system was very much a Rob thing. So
yeah, and it's, I mean, I love exploration-based games, and it's one of the reasons I absolutely love WildSea. But yeah, as Felix was saying, when we were talking about it, we were saying, well, you know, do we want to have travel and journeys as part of moving through the ruins? But and I think it was something that an early conversation Felix had with Sam about maybe using cards to like randomize parts of the ruins.
yeah.
And I two games that I am incredibly fond of are The Gardens of Yin and The Stygian Library by Emmy Allen, who's a good friend of mine. And I've been writing my own depth crawl for When the Moon Hangs Low, using a very similar system. So when I came into the Eternal Ruins, I was like, oh, well, have you ever considered a depth crawl mechanic? And so, yeah, we sort of, rather than the more free-form journey mechanics of the WildSea, built a lot more sort of detailed, while still trying to be sort of lighter on the side of rules, system about generating locations out of different pieces, so that, again, no two journeys are ever the same, no two locations are really ever the same. But still, it still fits within the Wild Words system quite neatly, I believe. But it's definitely, the sort of the thing that we sort of is the sort of the biggest departure. And I think the sort of other minor things were sort of removing damage types to make it a bit more streamlined, and maybe sort of tweaking things in little places. But yeah, I think the exploration mechanics are definitely the sort of the biggest sort of bolt-on feature.
Yeah, especially since, WildSea assumes a ship when you're doing exploration, and you don't have that luxury with a mega structure that just keeps on continuing. And
yeah, although we did think about carts for a while, oddly enough. It was one of the things in very early design that we talked to Sam about. The concept of a shared, even if it wasn't used specifically as a vehicle, but a shared thing. We dropped it a while into playtesting, but oddly enough, it's actually made its way back now in a way.
And I know someone might say, how could you make that work in an endless dungeon? To that I say, consider how the metro network in Moscow provided the inspiration for the metro books. And
good series.
Obviously, I could pander by bringing up the London Underground or the Bay Area Rapid Transit, or just the network of carts within various mining operations across the world. The point is that there is a precedent. And speaking of inspirations, I did look at the influences list on the alpha playtest, obviously. one that I was a little bit curious if it's been brought up to you. One is going to be a bit obvious, another one a little bit less so. Has anyone brought up to you? For starters, a manga called Blame by Tsutomu Nihei, which is more science fiction, but has a endless megastructure of its own.
Yeah, I read Blame a long time ago. It wasn't really an inspiration, I believe, for us, but I think Sam has said he is aware of it and whether it's had influence on Sam that way. But yeah, I do know a lot of people in the Eternal Ruins fandom often bring up Blame as a sort of a parallel or a sort of a sideways inspiration.
Yeah, the other one that I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up is the anime Made in Abyss.
Yeah, again, I have actually read Made in Abyss, and it's and I've mentioned it to Sam. He says especially the sort of the first few volumes, and especially with like the focus on cooking, in Made in Abyss is one of the things that kind of was a sort of a smaller touch point. It's Made in Abyss is a lot darker than Eternal Ruins, but it's definitely again there are parallels.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I have seen or read neither.
But and given the fact that you brought up Nausicaa in that influences, I think that's where you get into the way you have spirits and demons as these things that you should very much be wary of with spirits and stay absolutely away from when it comes to demons.
Yeah, and for me especially, Sam again is has mentioned Spirited Away and Nausicaa and also Princess Mononoke. For me, Princess Mononoke is definitely much more of a touch point when dealing with the spirits and demons, in that they're not necessarily demons aren't necessarily evil, although they definitely are, and spirits aren't necessarily good. It's just there are spirits that are definitely you should trust less, and there are demons that you potentially trust more. Although again, it's like I think Sam is still quite keen on the sort of the demons are bad, spirits are good sort of balance. I keep sort of I was suggesting lots of like, I'd like to make this spirit a bit more evil, and I was told I had to like curb my enthusiasm for that.
Yeah, that does happen a lot when Rob and I get together and brainstorm things. This is one of the challenges of working with an established world. Sometimes you will get an idea and you will make something, even if you're not even to the point of statting something up sometimes, but just you'll write a kind of paragraph or two of descriptive text, and it will really grab you, and then you'll take it in our case take it to Sam, and Sam will just go, yeah, it's cool, but it doesn't really fit just right, or like it's almost there, but we need to change this and this and this. And there have been moments where Rob and I have just been like, oh, okay.
On one hand, I can understand that enthusiasm. On the other hand, I can also understand wanting to stick to one's guns about having a consistent tone.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's one of those things that we had to establish early on, that Sam's word was law at the end of the day. Law LAW and law LORE. Like it's one of those things. If Sam says it's true, at that point it's true. But that doesn't mean you can't ask, and it definitely doesn't mean you can't ask why, because sometimes that is important. And there have been a few Eternal Ruinsy things, which, not that I'll spoil what they are, but which have been they were mysterious up until the point the TRPG side of things was getting written, and then we'd ask Sam about them, and Sam would be like, oh, well, people don't really know about that. And it's like, well, people might not know, but we do need to know, because we need to make rules around this kind of thing. They need to have like a logical, factual basis behind how this works in the world. So we have also got Sam to kind of solidify a few ideas that were left up in the air before. And we still disagree on some things as well. I think that's a natural part of the process.
Oh yeah.
The biggest one being sand, oddly enough.
He doesn't like sand.
Just
It gets everywhere.
it's a constant thing for us. Me in particular, I like sandy places, and even the Wild Sea, which is treetops, has like a sandy reach. Because I think sand's really cool. I love a desert. And the Eternal Ruins just doesn't have a desert, and it's a whole place made of stone. And there's a huge part in the core of me that's just like, there needs to be sand somewhere. It's made of stone, like Stonewood a Road. Come on, but it doesn't really fit the tone of the world. So yeah, we are sandless, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I hope to change Sam's mind one day, but you never know. No promises.
Yeah. Are you too familiar with what's known as a series Bible? Because it sounds like that's something that Sam does have.
Yes, I mean, again, it's things that so I with When the Moon Hangs Low, I established a sort of a little lore book for when I've had some contributors work on things, and it's also useful for like internal consistency when I'm writing supplements. I'm like, oh, what was this thing, and I have to go and look up what I wrote down. So yeah, yeah, it does. Sam has got a very good internal kind of Bible lore book for the Eternal Ruins, which I don't think we've been privy to, have we, Felix? But we have
Not
it
really,
in that
no.
we can say to Sam, you know, oh, does this fit? Does that fit? And he'll say, yep, no, yeah. So it's like there is definitely it's very good because we know, you know, through interacting with Sam as much as we do, what fits and what doesn't. And here he has got a very concrete vision of his world, which is fantastic. I mean, it does seem sometimes we have said, oh, can we add something like this? And Sam's gone, no, we can't have that. Well, you know, we've said, well, can we add something like this? And Sam said, oh yeah, that's fine. So it's like, I think before we started, there were no wolves in the Eternal Ruins, and then potentially there might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When it comes,
because everyone likes a wolf.
People do love a wolf. The wolf encounter is like a good fantasy staple, and for a reason. People know what wolves are. Wolves are inherently kind of scary.
Yeah.
But also kind of cool.
When I first found about the concept of dire wolves, I decided to take it and run with it a bit further and have these large wolves the size of war horses in some of my campaigns. So you're not too far off on that. Plus, given the part of the states that I live in, wolves can be a particular sight in some regions, to the point where I said I was more scared of werewolves as a kid than I was of vampires or anything like that.
Yeah, not a massive amount of wolves hanging around in the south of England, luckily for me. Although I did see a fox on a shed the other day. That was fun.
But given the massive size of the ruins, how does one make it so that individual explorations are still unique, but also have a variety of environments? Since you can't have everything be stone and corridors and nothing else, or something so big.
One of the things I find interesting, I'll let Rob get into the specifics of this when it comes to related to the travel system. But before Rob does, sorry to put him on the spot there, Rob, but you got 30 seconds to think about it.
Okay, I'm sweating.
Yeah, sorry. But I will say, one of the things I find quite interesting about this is that the Eternal Ruins has the same kind of quote-unquote problem that the Wild Sea does. There isn't really a problem at all. Because the Wild Sea, a lot of the early feedback I got from people who had heard about it but not seen the then in progress book was like, I mean, it's a forest. Doesn't that get boring after a while? Like, you know, if everything is a forest. And then all you have to think about is like, real world forests, massively diverse. And then once you add that kind of fantastical or weird fantasy element to it, you can do anything with a forest. And it's kind of the same with the Eternal Ruins. In one way, like everything is, I mean, most things are stone. Like it's a set of ruins and they're eternal. That's pretty much the world of the Eternal Ruins. But when you think about what ruins are and what forms they take and what stone is and what that can mean and what different spaces can exist, especially when you start pocketing those spaces within other spaces or linking them together in a way that where architecture doesn't necessarily need to make perfect sense by the end of it, because you have infinite combinations, infinite possibilities, then you do get a surprising amount of diversity in terms of how the world can be presented. And then I assume Rob will mention this again, no pressure. But then you've got things like the details that start adding extra layers of kind of possibility onto the locations. And you've got a surprisingly vibrant world for something which is endless, stone ruins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was one of the sort of the earlier things that we sort of discussed with Sam was the idea of regions within the ruins, which are very much, again, kind of the Wild Words system, and Wild Sea has reaches, which are kind of like pre-made areas of the ruins of the Wild Sea, which have their own kind of feel and theme. And we were keen to kind of bring that to the Eternal Ruins. So we sort of said to Sam, would you be just, how do you feel about having regions? And he was very open to it. And so the idea of having named regions of the ruins where this is the typical ruin area where everything's stony but there's a bit of moss. This is the I'm trying to think of the ones we've got the it's not the eyrie. There's the vertical region that's very high up. We've got the region that's flooded and everything's very wet, and you've got lots of fish and everything's underwater.
Do you know what it's called, Rob?
There's the sunken depths, and then there was the one that we did suggest during. I think it was the first meeting. I was saying to Sam,
Deluge.
We could. We were just spitballing names. So I was like, you could name it after Wanderers. You could have Belu's Deluge, and both for Sam and Felix both went, that's brilliant, we want that one. And then we mapped out the regions that we were going to use for the alpha, and Belu's Deluge kind of sat in the notes pile. Then we came back to the full version. I was like, right, I'm going to do Belu's Deluge. So
I love the name. I don't know why it's so good. It's just such a silly name.
Yeah, but it's the rainy region, which is very sort of vibrant and full of lush plants and things like that. So again, that's how we've sort of made the ruins the same, because it's always stone corridors and endless bridges and plazas that interlink, but it's the theming and the sort of the subtle variations of those areas as they lead into each other. And there are regions, again, going into the Wild Words mechanics, have tracks to them, so that you can, after you've been through this many locations, you cross off that region track, you've reached the end of the region, you can choose a new region, or you could go back into the same region and start a new journey. And each time you visit an area, it's randomly generated, and I think we've got something like 36 details, 36 features which combine together. Roughly. And what's 36 times 36? That's maths I can't do in my head quickly. So there's lots of possibilities of different locations you can find.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and I think it's important to not only have that kind of variety, but also show it. Because if you tell people, oh, there's a wide variety of possibilities that you could do, but you only show one of them, that's the one they're going to go with. Also, the answer to that question is 1,296.
Well, there you go.
Yes, there's quite a few different variations you can run into then. Yeah.
Don't ask me why I decided to spend that much brain power just putting it together in my head.
Also, technically, there's more than that, because some of the places and some of the features and details, they have their own like little alternate subtypes as well, which can change how they appear. So.
Yeah. And since you mentioned simplifying some of the elements that were in the Wild Sea, would it be fair to say that this one is a game that could be a bit more pickup, a bit more beer and pretzels?
It's definitely easier to grasp the core concept, even leaving the mechanics to the side. Like the world of the Eternal Ruins is, and I say this without a hint of kind of insult to it. It is a much simpler world, and it's a simpler world by design. It is a world of exploration and discovery and loneliness. And so much of the exploration comes from the absolute basics, but you don't know the details. And wanderers in general don't know the details. They are all learning as they explore, which means that the kind of meta level of it is like, these are the eternal ruins. What are they like? Well, they're eternal and they're ruins. Play to find out the rest. Like it's a much simpler sell than chainsaw ships and treetop seas and all that extra stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, incidentally, that's why I invoked blame earlier. The city in the whole conceit with blame is Killy is looking for someone with net terminal genes, but what that exactly means isn't stated. And the city itself is so massive, it takes years, if not centuries, to go between different floors. And just about anything and everything can be found within the city, including the many, many, many things that want you dead.
Yeah, we got some of those in the Eternal Ruins too.
So you have a similar vibe there. Huh. Like you don't, and just going into the manga for the first time, you don't know anything about the city aside from it exists.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of creative freedom that gives. I think both when you're playing and when you're writing for it as well. But it also gives you some very clearly defined edges to that creative sandbox, and that does make things a lot easier, I think, in many ways. When you can, it's the old kind of writing thing. When you can do anything, it's hard to decide on anything. But when you've got these clearly, when you've got these clearly defined parameters, but still a large space in between, that's a good creative space to work in.
Mm-hmm. Now, within that, obviously, a lot of the core mechanics are going to be similar. Still using the D6 approach, still having it based on the highest die roll and whatnot. But since you're dealing with potentially a more freeform setup with character creation, how do you ensure that there isn't analysis paralysis? I know there is the origins present here.
Rob, you want to take this as you've just done a rejig of the character creation levels?
Yeah, I mean, so the I don't think there's much sort of potential analysis paralysis in character gen. Your characters, you have origins which sort of speak to where in the ruins your character woke up. Although they look human, wanderers they're born from stone statues. And so where they step out their stone statue is their origin, and that is gives them certain options. And then linked into that is the path, which is the other half of the character creation, which is how your wanderer then sort of travels through the ruins, sort of what they how they progress through the ruins. And again, that then gives you the other half of your sort of abilities you snap together to make a character, much like in Wild Sea, where you have three possibilities. In Eternal Ruins, you just have two. But then there are three sort of kits, levels, that you can start as, which is either you're newly awakened, you've literally just popped out your statue. You don't really have much, and you know very little about the ruins. There's a capable explorer who they've been around for a little bit, and that's the sort of the standard, I would say, sort of start setting. I would probably say for most players. And then there's also Master Traveler, which is you've been around a lot, you've already had adventures, so it gives the option for players to kind of start as effectively high-level PCs with more skills, more abilities, and also some sort of magic items in game world, relics.
Yeah. And speaking of relics, looking at what you've got there, it looks like relics have not only their own initial effects, but also more advanced effects you can get by just having it around or spending time studying what it does.
Yeah, I think the process of unlocking new things was quite an important one, especially to Sam. Because again, it plays on that lack of knowledge that wanderers have about their world. You find a relic, and like, yeah, you might be able to intuit quite easily how to make it do something basic, but it is this unknowable object from a time that you don't know when it was, created by we have no idea. Study it enough, and you will learn more, but it does take time and study.
Yeah, and I think it also linked into an idea that I've seen, especially in some D&D, of all things, actual plays, where it's the idea of it's stepping away from, oh, I've got a +1 sword. Oh, now I've found a +2 sword. I'll throw my +1 sword away. I've seen a lot of storytellers kind of having the idea of the magic items that your character has are important to the player as well as the character. And the longer that you spend with them, they should kind of level up with your PC. So the idea of, my wanderer has found this really cool relic. We didn't want it to be like, oh, now I found a better relic, so the other relic kind of falls by the wayside. It's the idea of the more you spend on this relic, the more you look at it and study it as you camp, the more you realize it's actually got hidden extra abilities, and so the relics become more powerful the more the wanderer is invested in them.
Mm-hmm. The vibe that I get from looking at the relics is not far removed from the way items and equipment are treated in, say, any of the Legend of Zelda games. Where,
There's definitely a big Zelda influence to it,
Yeah.
I
mean, are there items in these Zelda games that are just improved versions of other items? Yes, but they're very, very rare. Like, you might get less than 3 of them throughout one game, if that. Of course, one of them was the infamous, oh, you get a longer hook shot in the water temple, which, for all the hell you go through with the water temple, especially if you played the original version, is kind of lame.
No, I did. Oddly enough, one of my favorite Legend of Zelda upgrades is also a something shot, but it's actually from, I think it was Twilight Princess, and it was the you get the claw shot, and you're like, wow, this thing's really cool. How are they going to top this? And then later on, it's like, you get 2 claw shots. It's like, oh, okay, thanks, brilliant.
Yeah, but the point is that a individual relic is not just number go up, but is either an expansion of what you can do, or giving you some avenue that you otherwise couldn't have access to. And Metroidvania games are infamous for this, where they love teasing you with cool stuff that you can't reach yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was when we were starting to talk about relics, I think Felix and I basically sort of agreed that, and I think Sam, has also sort of added to the same effect, that a relic shouldn't just give you more dice to roll. It's that a relic should do a weird thing that without the relic, a wanderer could never do. So, it allows you to breathe underwater. It allows you to walk up walls, that kind of thing. But one of the sort of the world caveats from Sam is that relics always have some sort of weird effect, not necessarily a downside, but it's, there's one of his examples was there's a spinning top that while it's spinning, you can walk up walls, but you always have to have the spinning top spinning, or it's there's a helmet that allows you to breathe underwater, but you can't talk, and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it gave us some fun guidelines to sort of create magic items within.
Yeah. Plus, there's that whole rule of nobody can have the same magic item, nobody can have the same relic that you've got.
Yeah.
Yes, relics
well,
are singular.
I will say my favorite relic is still the stupid belt. It's just a bell that you can ring, which has various effects, but the cost of using it is that you're not woken up by other bells, which just means essentially you oversleep. It's just such a. I came up with it very early on in the process, and it just stuck around as a negative effect. I just love the fact that it's like you have this object of great power. It's like, oh, what's the cost for using it? I miss my alarm every morning. It's just sometimes it's nice to have something that's just a little bit sillier.
Hmm. And when it comes to spirits, I did notice that one of the things that is hinted at is the idea of becoming the warden of a spirit. I'm guessing that with that it's a case of getting some potent benefits, but also meaning that you are answerable to that spirit's plan or agenda.
Got to be careful how much we say about this stuff.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, God,
yeah. Oh, no, Rob. I'll happily let you do it. That's.
Well, yeah, we literally had a conversation earlier going, what are we allowed to talk about? What aren't we allowed to talk about? So, yeah, the concept within the world of the Eternal Ruins of Spirit Wardens, who are basically people who have sworn to follow one of the great spirits. There are great spirits and lesser spirits. Great spirits are ones with, significant power and a shrine and things like that. And they have these wanderers who are sworn to them. That people have since day one been saying, oh, can we play Spirit Wardens? And the answer is yes. But that's all we can say about it for now. It's part of the full release. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right to infer those things, Mildra.
Yes. It's also one of those things. I think the myth works way in general, and definitely something that's been important to me for a long time is that before official paid for products go out, you do try and give good, solid, free versions of things. Because I went through a decent chunk of my life just not being able to afford games. Games, they're not the cheapest things in the world. In the grand scheme of things, they're cheaper than a lot of other entertainment for the amount of stuff you get. But they're still, especially at the moment, times are kind of tough for a lot of people. So, yeah, we like giving out, and I think Rob's on the same page as me here, we like giving out a good, chunky, playable thing that you can have a lot of fun with without dropping money on it. But we do also have to reserve some stuff for a paid product. So,
yeah.
And Spirit Wardens are one of those things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the inverse of the Spirit Wardens, which again, lots of people have been asking for. So.
Oh yeah. And when it comes to demons, there's of course the whole thing of the demon keeper, but with each one of the demons that we see, it seems to fall into this theme of drawing upon and feeding on not only negativity, but this, for lack of a better term, void.
Yeah, I mean the demons, and again that's what I was hinting at. So demons have demon keepers, which is the other thing that people have been saying. Can we play those? Check out the full release. But yeah, the demons are actually one of the things that I think both Felix and I kind of struggled with to conceptualize. Yeah, Sam had a really strong concept for the demons, but it's each of the demons does they feed off despair and fear, but then also each demon has its own kind of negative personality trait that it targets, and Sam had done some fantastic writing for them to summarize them, but when we were trying to come up with similar concepts, we really struggled for quite a while to kind of land in the same sort of area as Sam and to sort of come up with something that fit his world.
Definitely.
But yeah, we've finally got there. But they're really interesting. I really do like them because the demons are very sort of non-standard sort of opponents from a TTRPG.
Definitely fun to create. Yeah. Also, I think one of the things is when you're doing something like that, something which is reasonably high concept for some, especially some of the demons. It's one of those things where the creator Sam Sam can go wild and come up with some really fun ideas, and they can be amazing. But amazing and wild is not always, and is in fact often not, easy to mechanize. And
Yeah.
at some point, there has to be that element of game to it, of like, well, this needs to be not only kind of distinctive and memorable, but it needs to be playable at a table. Because nothing grinds a game to a halt than a GM going, okay, I've got this thing, and then give me a second, and then they spend 10 minutes rereading rules. That's it's that was definitely part of it. But yeah, as Rob said, part of the problem with creating demons is just making them feel right for Sam's vision of the world and getting that mechanization aspect in. It is one of the hardest things we've had to balance. Spirits, oddly enough, much easier in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's yeah. Oh,
I think it's due to the fact that with spirits we have so many different types of mythology and can go in all manner of different ways. But with demons, the whole thing with demons in a lot of cultures is they're this thing you fear that you can't quite see and can't quite understand. But when you're building it in a game form, you have to do both. It's
Yes, because you have to present it and you have to play it. It's yeah.
Are you familiar with the conundrum of do you stat dragons?
No, not heard that one.
Oh, this is one of those thought experiment ideas of should certain monsters be statted out because people think, well, if it has stats, then it can be taken out.
Yes.
I thought that was what it was. Yes,
yeah. I am with you now. Yeah.
I've always taken the approach of, will I stat them? Yes. Will I stat them fairly? Maybe not.
But that's still catnip to a certain subset of players.
But
this thing has got 90,000 hit dice and can do 1 billion damage in one go. We can take that.
Yeah, it's
just need a good plan. Yeah.
The old thing of should Cthulhu have stats?
Yeah.
Because if not, your players are going to find a steam ship and try and drive it through them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that can be circumvented when you make explicitly clear that picking a fight with this kind of thing is not a good idea.
It's actually, oddly enough, we ran into it. It's a slight diversion, but we ran into it with the recent Tigers on the Wire adventure for the Wild Sea, because it's as part of the story, it's got a few kind of tougher fights in it, and I did run into some problems of like, how am I mechanizing this fight with this character that really shouldn't die during the course of the fight, because that might negatively impact the story, but still make it feel big and dramatic and fair. It's hard to balance when you introduce stats, and sometimes it is just better to go, don't. We haven't done that this time. Everything's statted, but the option was there.
Although, there's the one thing is that the spirits don't really have stats for players to really tackle them, because it's assumed that spirits are this sort of benevolent thing. And also perhaps because they're too, they can't be fought. If Wanderers tried, they would just fail. The spirits exist more as kind of points of reference and help, rather than something that sort of, if you give it stats, they can defeat it. Whereas with demons, they are very much statted, even though potentially demons could be as helpful as spirits, but probably shouldn't be.
Oh, don't let Sam hear you say that.
Mm-hmm. Now, with that kind of thing in mind, I'm guessing that people have asked the question of whether or not, if with much like with Spirit Wardens, if Demon Keepers are potentially a playable option.
They will. Well, they are again one of the things that will be in the full version.
Mm-hmm. But with
Oh, go on, sorry.
With both spirits, demons, and the like, one thing that, especially with demons and servitors, one thing that I noticed that I find interesting is building them around these very specific tracks.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And I'm guessing the was it a case where the track setup was made first before you started fleshing out demons and servitors, or was it the other way around?
In what way?
In terms of, as we mentioned before, with things like this, like with the challenge and accord track for Demon Keeper and the challenge and override track for servitors.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, was it a case where that was created first, or the other way around?
This was one of those things where we let the setting of the world influence the mechanics of the wild word system, and we started to change the way certain things worked. In fact, I specifically remember how override tracks came into being. And it was because at first it was just things, for a while at least in very early development, things just had tracks, and much like the Wild Sea or Pico, you just filled them however. But I was rewatching some of the Eternal Ruins videos from Sam's channel, and it was one of those things where you're listening to something and you think, yep, the game does that, yep, the RPG does that, and then you listen to something else and go, and we don't do that, do we? So I had to then kind of quickly scramble it back into the mechanics of things and go, okay, what is the best, neatest way to represent? And with servitors, it was the concept of overriding them and kind of confusing their quote unquote programming. We're some internal discussion on how to refer to servitors and their actions and their kind of what I would call programming, but it's the functions they carry out. And the override track was a very slight tweak on the way existing tracks worked. And once the override track was done, I can't remember if it was based on the Accord track or if the Accord track came at the same time / afterwards. Rob, do you remember?
I can't remember. I think it was Airgate. I think we'd been talking about sort of the similar sort of concept, and then with the override track, it kind of cemented it.
Yeah.
And like, well, yeah. If servitors, you can fight them and fill their challenge track or override them. Where then with demons, do we have something similar? And I think it was I think it might have actually been because we were talking about there's a lot of animal hazards in the book as well, and we didn't necessarily want people to be running around killing them because again, it's not that kind of game really. So the idea of having the ability to tame or befriend a lot of the animals. And so the idea of these dual tracks, so you've got a challenge track and an accord track, which is where you make friends with something, you tame it, or even just you find a non-violent solution. You scare off the creature. And so with demons, we were like, well, you can definitely talk to demons, and Sam said, you can definitely make deals with them. It's not a very good idea, but you can do it. So the idea of having an accord track for demons is definitely that's where it came in, giving players. And again, it's like we were saying, if you have just one track, then players will tend to kind of see it as it's you've statted the dragon. Well, this thing's got a track. I fill it with my sword. Whereas if you specifically split them into two and label them differently, then players start going, oh, I don't have to fight the demon.
Yeah, it's signposting. It's one of those things. If you only give something HP, people will want to take down that HP. It doesn't matter if there are other ways you can approach that encounter. Like you have that HP as like that's your goal. You have a number to hit. So with the multiple kinds of tracks, it was like, yeah, there is a challenge track. You can do this thing through some kind of struggle or physical harm, but there is also a chord. You can, in whatever way that manifests, there is a way to finish this differently, and it is mechanically represented. So it's there as an option from the very start of an encounter, essentially.
Yeah. Not to mention, in the case of servitors, you make it clear that just doing standard attacks are just going to ding off of them.
Yeah, they're big and stony, or big and materially
the only real way is to get under the skin essentially, and it's not like they're just gonna sit there and let you do that.
Rob is our. I did the write up for the very first servitor, and in the rules, and I did the write up for the. Is it a spoiler to talk about the rescriptor? Not anymore, I don't think.
No, it's been released in the actual play.
Yeah, that's all good. Okay, I did the write up for the rescriptor, which is a servitor based path that characters can take, which I think is really fun. But for all of the environmental servitor stuff, and now a lot of the kind of further servitor stuff, Rob really took to that like a duck to water. Rob, do you want to do the servitor spiel?
I mean, well, yeah. Again, without giving away too much, I mean, I've always loved one of my favorite animes is Castle in the Sky, and again, like the idea of like ancient moss-covered robots, I really enjoy. So yeah, when we did one, just the guard servitor is what's in the alpha and the beta, but Sam was very keen that we have different sort of varieties, and so yeah, we've got a couple more to show off. I mean, I could have quite happily just kept writing them, but there is a limit to the amount of pages we can fill.
Yes.
Make our publisher unhappy.
Yeah. No, we're good at that.
But the servitors are a joy to write. And yeah, because who doesn't love a robot that just gardens mindlessly for untold centuries until it becomes home to a colony of raccoons?
Which it certainly fits that whole built to last thing, as well as reinforces the fact that the structure is old.
Some might even say eternal.
You're not wrong, but I'm still giving side
I knew it was cheeky as I said it, but I tell you what, I'm glad I did. No, it's fun.
Still cheeky, but if you were standing next to me in a pub, I'd end up throwing the nearest thing at you or something.
Yeah, that would be fair.
Yeah, nothing. I wouldn't throw anything dangerous. Just like a like a coaster or something.
I can take it.
Oh, of course, if we're outside and it's wintry enough, then you are prime target for snowballs.
Not in my part of England, unfortunately. Closest we get is clumps of mud.
Yeah. I'm not going to throw around mud. I'm not going to throw on mud. Do I look like I'm mudslinging? But obviously, you already know that it gets real cold where I am. But
yeah,
with all three of them within the full book, are there plans to put in suggestions or guidelines or the like for people who want to add their own spirits, demons, or servitors?
I mean, not explicitly.
Actually, yeah, it's a harder one than usual. I think one of the things with the Eternal Ruins is it is a more concise experience in some ways. Because one of the things that we don't want to do is we don't want to outstrip the actual world building that inspires the game. We don't want to get into last few seasons of Game of Thrones territory, basically, where it's like, well, we've run out of written material, we've run out of all the stuff. Let's just make some things up and check it with the creator, who can go, yeah, all right, I suppose. Yeah, we don't want to get to that point. So we do have to hold ourselves back in some way. And of course, there's the kind of more real world barriers you run into, things like page counts and word counts and printing and book weights. So we do have limited space to an extent, more than more than we would for, say, an independent project, where you can just kind of go, well, this concept is good, but it takes up some space. I can cut that entirely. You can't really do that with an established world. So there are certain things which are harder to add, and creation-based rules, because they are the kind of thing that do tend to take up a decent chunk of space, are one of the things that I don't think are in there currently. Suggestions and advice is easy enough, but like actual moment-by-moment rules, like old kind of... I always think of like the old GM spell creation rules in D&D 3.5 when it comes to like making your own stuff. Great system. Took up many pages.
Yeah. But I mean, the other thing is that with Wild Words, I've always found that I think people get the system quite quickly. And on the Eternal Ruins Discord, we've already got a like a hacks and homebrew channel, which people have started going, here's my servitor, here's my demon. And so people have kind of quickly realized how the structure that we've given as examples can be used to make their own stuff. And the Wild Words SRD quite neatly outlines how to do things, and how to expand upon it. So I'm more confident that with things like the Eternal Ruins, people will get it and understand how to quickly create their own content without us having to give like blow by blow rules. And it's also with a lot of Wild Word stuff, it's more narrative and kind of vibe based than mechanical. So unlike 3.5, where it's like a giant has D8 hit dice, and for every 6 points of strength gains another hit dice, and it was very mechanical. With Eternal Ruins and Wild Words, it's more what you feel a demon or a creature should have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot simpler to make your own stuff, which I think is a good reason and a very good excuse. Thank you, Rob, to not put in focused creation rules in there. So thanks for that one.
Yeah, which certainly makes sense. But with that said, what are you shooting for as far as the release window for the Kickstarter proper?
Oh, I think we're allowed to talk about that, aren't we? Yes.
I was just going to say, can we talk about that in concrete terms? Can we talk about it vaguely? Definitely. Can we talk about it concretely? I can't remember, so I'm going to defer.
Yeah, I think we can give you the dates, which is, let me just check the last message.
Just edit out that bit of us having to check our own dates. Like, just make us sound more competent.
No.
I didn't think you would.
One moment, sorry.
Come on, this isn't your first time here. You guys should know how.
No, I know. I'm pretty certain it is yes, January the 27th. Sorry.
I knew that.
And as for exact breakdowns of what's to be expected, that is very much still being kept under wraps, I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm. But at the very least, there is something approaching a date to build around. I usually build these kind of interviews around a Kickstarter launch date or run. Obviously, I can only do that so well in these kind of things.
Yeah.
No, the 27th of January is, I think, fairly set in stone.
Mm-hmm. It's also, oddly enough, it's interesting, I think, in some ways for Rob and I, because while we've both done writing for other projects before, it's the first time we've done like large amounts of writing. For me, it runs on the Wild Words engine, so we've contributed a huge amount to this, but we are not in charge. It is still very much Sam's ball game, and Sam is a wonderful creator in his own right. So it's interesting to watch how things progress. But it has been. I don't know. Maybe this isn't something Rob and I have already talked about. So why not do it live while we're being recorded first? But for me, at least, it's very interesting being just a little bit on the outside looking in as far as plans and things goes, because you're informed about them and you're asked about your thoughts about them. But unlike when, for example, I was doing the Wild Sea, you're not really involved in the decision making process in the same way, and that's quite an interesting one for me. Mm-hmm. It's a new feeling.
Yeah, same. I mean, I've worked on other projects, but again, like Felix says, not to this scale. And yeah, it's both limiting and freeing, because I'm sort of like, well, at the end of the day, I'm just one of the writers, but it's also I'm very invested in it because Felix and I have devoted a lot of time and effort to this, and so then sometimes it's also like, God, I wish I was more in charge, so I could say no. Yes. I want to, do it this date, or like, I think we should have this. But yeah, so it is a very novel experience, and it's been great so far. We've really enjoyed it. There's been ups and downs, but the majority are ups, and it's been a really great project to work on.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where when I was doing, especially the second Wild Sea book, Storm and Root, if you'd asked me kind of 3 months before what the Kickstarter going live date would be, I would have been able to tell you in a flash, because it would have been seared into my brain, because I'd be thinking, I've got 100 things I need to do before then. I'm so stressed. Whereas with this, like the Kickstarter date, that's important, and it's still something that we are vaguely aware of, that we have to check, obviously. But for us, it's internal writing deadlines, and like when are we next meeting with the team? It's a lot more relaxed in that way, which is a nice new experience, especially for me. You're still very invested in it, but you're invested a lot more in the process, because you can focus on the process while knowing that other people are doing their bit for the end result. So, which is a nice new feeling, I think, for me, and hopefully one I'll get to have again in the future. Mm-hmm. It's nice to let someone else put a hand on the reins from time to time.
Oh yeah, and with that said, I'll certainly be looking forward to how it develops. But I do want to sincerely thank both of you for taking the time out of your schedules and braving time zone hell to come all the way to my monastery and enjoy the madness that happens here.
That's all right.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
And anytime you see fit to return, the door is always open. As I often say around here, drinking is not mandatory, but it is encouraged. And, of course, a sincere thanks goes out to everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come onto the show and enjoy the madness. And there will be plenty more where that came from, as there always is here, on the open bar of the internet. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra, I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody!
For